Okay, when we talk about Piaget's theory of cognitive development, there are actually 4 different stages as far as Piaget feels. Sensory motor stage, which begins at birth. The preoperational stage is about age 2 until 6 or 7. The concrete operation stage is 6 or 7 until 11 or 12. And then the formal operation stage, it's from 11 or 12 to adulthood. So those are the 4 that he is saying exist. So let's see what you think. Now, you will find on the notes that I've attached a video that is an example of each of the stages. So let's start with the first one. Just let me start by saying the most accurate reflection of the research finding concerning Piaget's theory of cognitive development is that the order in which the various logical thinking capacities emerge is consistent with the stages. So everybody pretty much agrees on that. Now, do they agree that these actually truly do exist? Some folks do not. I find it, as I said earlier, that this is true as far as my children and some of my classroom students go. So let's look at the sensory motor stage. This is from birth to around 2 years old. Children focus on what they're doing and seeing at the moment. Their schemes are based primarily on behaviors and perceptions. An example might be an infant sees his mom across the room, and then he starts to cry because he sees her and wants her. But after the mom leaves the room, out of the baby's sight, the infant can be occupied by something else, at least for a little bit. You might see, if you've ever worked at a daycare, if your church has a nursery, you might see this. As long as the child sees the mother, then there's a problem. But the minute they can no longer see them, then it seems like you can pacify them, and it almost like they forget. But then as soon as mom walks back in the door, they always remember. It appears that way anyway. Well, then we move to the next stage, stage 2, which is pre-operational stage. It starts about 2 years and goes to 6 or 7 years old. In this area, children's language skills virtually explode, and their rapidly increasing vocabularies enable them to represent and think about a wide variety of objects and events. They start naming things, mama, dada, or some of the first few words they normally say. Language also provides the basis for a new form of social interaction, verbal communication, because now it's not just a cry and let's see who's going to jump to my rescue, but now they actually can ask for things. And let you know what they want. The pre-operational stage has what's called an egocentrism that happens in here. It's an inability to view situations from another person's perspective, understanding why a child might need to share or being considerate of others' feelings. They have a hard time at this stage. I think one of the favorite words is mine. An example of egocentrism might be my Sarah, the youngest, when she was little, and even sometimes now, she tells a story as though we all were right there, and we can't have any clue what she's talking about because we weren't there. But it's because it's all about her. She thinks we ought to know everything about it. Also, maybe after a heated argument between, let's say my girls, Hannah and Sarah have an argument, and then, I'll get them aside and I'll say, Hannah, how do you think that makes Sarah feel when you do that? This is when they were younger in this stage. Well, Hannah doesn't know how it makes Sarah feel, and she could care less because it's all about her in this stage. Also during this time, because the children came very close in age, at least at my house, Daniel, I can remember, would have a hard time from time to time sharing. He thought if something was in his room, it belonged to him. Or if he even looked at something and wanted it, it belonged to him. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is egocentrism. And that happens in this pre-operational stage. This can be a difficult time for parents trying to mold that child into understanding how others feel. It just doesn't seem to happen. Another part of this stage is conservation. Is what it's called. It is realizing that if nothing's added or taken away, the amount stays the same regardless of the alteration in the shape or arrangement. Kids are so funny with this one in this stage. I love this stage. They're really fun because all these things are happening. An example might be, let's say, 5-year-old Becky. She's given the chance to choose a broken candy bar or a whole candy bar. She chooses the broken because she thinks it has more maybe it's a Hershey bar and there's 6 pieces instead of 1 whole. In her mind, the 6, even though they're smaller, still more than the 1. Becky's showing a lack of conservation. That indicates that she's not yet completed the transition to the concrete operation stage of development because she hasn't mastered that conservation. Another example might be, let's say Johnny is playing Jenga. You know, Jenga's where you have all those blocks and you build on each other and you try to make it tall. Well, let's say Johnny stacks the block one on top of the other and eventually the tower tumbles. He begins to stack them again. This process proves that he's actively thinking about and interpreting the results of his actions. Maybe he's going to change the way he does it now because now he sees it's fallen. It's that experience, pre-operational stage, a very fun stage to be a part of. All right, the next one is the concrete operation stage. In the concrete operation stage, it's 6 or 7 to 11 or 12 years old. Children's thought processes become organized into larger systems of mental processes, operations that allow them to think more logically than they have previously. They can think through maybe word problems a little better, maybe just the whole mental process thing. They begin to process a little better. They can draw logical inferences about information they're given. They have trouble understanding abstract ideas, though. They're still not hardly to that phase. And if you give them a problem that involves multiple hypotheses or variables, they struggle. So an example might be, let's say a teacher of 8-year-olds. That would be about 2nd grade, maybe 3rd, has set a goal to have 40% of her students to the formal operation stage, the next stage, by the end of the year. If we look at this from the perspective of Piaget's theory, is it possible for her to move 40% of her 8-year-olds to the formal operational stage? I want you to stop the video, text me your answer yes or no, and then explain to me why or why not, because you know I just don't let you by with yes or no. Can she move 40% of her 8-year-olds to the formal operational stage? Text me your answer. I'll wait. Send me your answer. All right. Then we have the last stage, which is the formal operation stage. This is where they think about concepts that have little or no basis in concrete reality. They recognize that what is logically valid is different from what is true in the real world. They see things a little clearer, I guess. Abstract problems, such as mathematical word problems, should become easier to solve. And so this is 11 or 12, remember, 11 or 12 to adulthood. And nowadays we're giving word problems as early as 1st grade. Interesting. They're capable of understanding such concrete concepts as negative numbers, pi, and infinity. We were actually introducing that in 5th grade. And the students were not getting it. Maybe it's because they weren't hardly there. They were 10-year-old about to turn 11, so maybe that was part of the problems. Students understand proportions and can more easily use fractions, decimals, and ratios when solving problems. Another issue we had in 5th grade is trying to understand fractions. I remember one of the best lessons I thought I ever had was we ordered pizzas uncut. We sliced them. We talked about fractions. We divvied them out. We ate them. Oh, what a wonderful day. The very next day we come back in and I said, so what did we do yesterday in math? We ate pizza. Yes, but why did we eat pizza? Because we were hungry. It's like that whole lesson never happened. Well, they weren't hardly there per Piaget. Scientific reasoning is likely to improve, and they're reasoning logically about hypothetical ideas, formulating multiple hypotheses. That gets to be a little clearer now. So a science fair, at least with 11 and 12-year-olds, could be a little bit more fun, and it wouldn't be so much just the parents doing the work. All right, there's the 4 stages.